Back in the days of the Cold War, spies found ingenious and unusual ways to communicate with each other, hiding their communications in plain sight, whether encrypted or not. For instance, an intelligence agent or spy might contact his case officer or handler by placing an ad in the personal section of a local newspaper. This practice, it seemed, was still in use in 2006. On or around Monday the 8th of May 2006, a truly bizarre personal ad appeared on the internet classified ad site Craigslist. The message read, "For mein Fraulein. Mein Fraulein, I haven't heard from you in a while, won't you call me? 212-796-0735. Upon calling the number, people were presented with a pre-recorded message which appeared to follow a similar format to number stations. I'll play key segments of the recording, but I'll link the full message in the description below because they're quite long.
Group 415. Group 415. 0 1 P 0 5 0 1 P 0 5 6 0 5 1 0 6 0 5 1 0 0 0 7 0 0 0 0 7 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 8 6 8 6.
So there's some information we need to break down here. The message started with a musical preamble, and I'm sure many of you correctly identified the 2000 track Little Black Heart by Norwegian synth-pop band a-ha. Then the automated male voice read a group count which was 415. What followed was 50 paired groups of 5-figure groups of numbers. Each one was repeated twice for a total of 100 groups. This is similar to what most of the shortwave number stations did and still do today. The message ended with 00000 read twice before it closed with 86 read twice, and Little Black Heart played as the outro. On or around May the 12th, 2006, Craigslist pulled the ad, but the number remained up and running for some time. Someone then tipped off a friend at 2600 Magazine, one of the best magazines for people with an interest in hacking and system security, about the phone number. Its editor, Emmanuel Goldstein, mentioned the phone number on the May the 24th, 2006 episode of the WBAI radio show Off the Hook. Let me play you that segment.
It'd be ridiculous. All right.
Good for.
I want to call this number, and this is an example of some of the fun things that are out there. And Bernie, I believe you sent this to us, and this has actually been the focus of a lot of attention from various people in various places. It's kind of spooky, kind of scary, kind of interesting. Let's give this a call, and you can see for yourself just some of the wacky things that are out there. If anyone can recognize this music, please let us know.
Group 415. Group 415. 0 1 P 0 5 0 1 P 0 5.
This is the equivalent of a number station, except it's on a phone number, and a lot of people are curious as to just what exactly is going on here. You have what sound like different numbers from different voices sort of spliced together in some kind of a pattern after playing some kind of weird music, saying group 415. So what I can tell you is if you plug the following two numbers into Google, 01305 space 60510, you'll get a whole discussion about this, and in there somewhere is the phone number, and you can track it down and figure it all out.
Well, people listening to this may think this is just a bunch of gibberish, but this what you're hearing is very similar to nearly identical to the techniques that intelligence agencies, government intelligence agencies around the world have used communicate to their field agents, their field operatives, their secret agents, over shortwave radio frequencies.
Mm-hmm.
Because with just a common shortwave radio, you can pick up these 5-number groups and using what's called a one-time pad, decrypt these encrypted messages. But this is the first known example of this type of messaging system, or maybe it's a spoof of this messaging systems, being available over a telephone line. So I urge any of our listeners who investigate this and track down the phone number through the clues we've given them to see if they can discover the actual location of this phone pair, where this line is, and get to the bottom of it. It could be an artist trying to spoof this and just create conversation. Could be something really more spooky. We don't know.
Yeah, now, I don't want to give...
Naturally, the number was then inundated with calls from aspiring phone freaks and other curiosity seekers. Web sleuths got a hold of the story, and gradually some more details behind the number began to emerge. The number was a VoIP setup from a small provider that was not identified, but the wholesaler was a company called RNK Telecom. The account was prepaid, and the flood of calls after the radio show quickly depleted the account balance. Callers over the Memorial Day weekend heard a message that said, "Your account balance is too low." By the end of May, the number gave nothing but a busy signal. There was a recording floating around on the internet of the account balance message, but it's been lost somewhere in the early 2000s internet. Many questions still remained. Who put the ad on Craigslist, and what, if anything, did the encrypted message mean? The first thing of note was the unusually high number of zeros in the message. This was something that wasn't present in regular number station broadcasts. Another interesting point was the inflection on the individual numbers. Each number appeared to be sampled from somewhere else rather than just an automated male voice using text-to-speech software. As of May 31st, 2006, the number was dead and a Craigslist ad had been deleted. However, on June 1st, another phone number was discovered. It turned out that a Craigslist ad had appeared on May 29th. It read, "For mein Fraulein. Mein Fraulein, you must call me again soon. 415-704-0402. Upon phoning the number, a message similar to the first one began to play. It started with the same music, read a different group count, this time group 617. The same automated male voice then read 40 paired groups of 5-figure groups of numbers, read twice, for a total of 80 groups as opposed to the previous 50. The message ended with 01201 instead of 00000, and 7 was read twice before it closed with the outro music.
Group 617. Group 617. 0617. 0617. 0706. 0706. 7.
This time the telephone number was registered to PacWest Telecom. Web sleuths couldn't ascertain who retailed the number or to whom. On June 10th, 2006, a third ad appeared on Craigslist, which read, "For mein Fraulein. Mein Fraulein, I hear the weather in the south is good this time of year. Won't you call me? 678-248-2352. The recording that was played when the number was called followed the same pattern as before. This time the group was 134, and the voice read 32 pairs of 5-figure groups of numbers for a total of 64 groups. One point to note was the lack of shorter sign-off number. The outro music closed the message, and like the other two, the line went dead.
Group 134. Group 134. 003 0 0 0 0 3 0 0 0 1 8 0 6 0 1 8 0 6 9 0 7 0 9 0 7 0.
The telephone number was owned by Global Crossing, a wholesaler of VoIP and other telecommunication services. The VoIP retailer was still unknown. The mystery Craigslist ads and the messages that followed had people talking. Some suggested that the messages were just pranks or some sort of commercial gimmick. One person who claimed to be in the US military said he sent a copy of one of the messages up the chain of command and was promptly notified that it was classified and he wasn't cleared to know anything further about it. This turned out to be absolute rubbish. 7 more adverts were placed with numbers that led to messages that followed the same structure, but I'll show you more information on these as we look at who was behind these bizarre events. The number stations placed on VoIP telephone numbers were created by several people who attended the Los Angeles 2600 meeting in May of 2006 as an experiment just for fun. a hacker called Datagram spoke about the history of shortwave radio stations at a talk at the event. Afterwards, the group of hackers behind the number stations, Strom Carlson, Vidiot, Datagram, and Screw You, began to talk about asterisks and VoIP. Suddenly somebody said, "I wonder if we could do a VoIP number station," and from there, Project Evil was born. The stations, which did use one-time pads for encryption, were an experiment to try and estimate the size, power, and organisational capacity of the online cryptographic community, according to a statement on the group's website, which is now defunct. The group of hackers presented their findings at the 2006 DEF CON Hacker Conference in Las Vegas, Nevada. The presentation detailed how third parties could be used unwittingly to create a virtually untraceable communications channel between two parties in order to foil traffic analysis attempts by hostile intelligence agencies. It seems to have worked too. The original plan was to create 4 to 6 VoIP number stations and use one-time pads to encrypt the messages. The first and last messages would be encrypted using the same one-time pad. The first message was released in May, and the last was to be released just before the DEF CON conference in August. After a few days of the initial message being on Craigslist, using a Manhattan VoIP number, a tip-off was placed on the Spooks message board in order to generate some further interest. Interest in the new phenomena of VoIP number stations grew quickly. In its first day, the number received a few calls. On May the 24th, Emmanuel Goldstein mentioned the number during the Off the Hook radio show, and it started to be flooded with calls from phone freaks around the country. On May the 29th, 2006, they released the second VoIP number station in San Francisco, and the interest continued to build. On May the 31st, Michael Hampton of Homeland Stupidity wrote an article about the number stations that quickly turned into a forum for amateur cryptographers trying to decrypt the messages, and on June the 1st, an article was posted on Slashdot. The amount of publicity in what was supposed to be a small experiment was staggering. By the end of the month, the stations had received hundreds of calls and generated countless posts on message boards and blogs across the internet. On June the 10th, they released the third number station in Atlanta, and interest continued to build at a feverish pace. According to Homeland Stupidity, even the cryptanalysts at the NSA had taken an interest in the experiment. Later that same week, Project Evil made arrangements with the DEF CON conference to present the experiment under the pseudonym Social Message Relay, using existing social networks to transmit covert messages in public. In order to keep the subject matter secret, only members of Project Evil and Dark Tangent, the creator of DEF CON, knew the truth. Then, on June the 20th, just as interest in the number stations was at its peak, disaster struck as they became the victims of their own success. The organisers of the Hackers on Planet Earth conference created a copycat number station using Project Evil's sound clips. 2 days later, they announced on the Off the Hook radio show that it was all a stunt, and that the person who decrypted their messages would win free tickets to the Hope conference. After this stunt, interest began to wane in Project Evil's number stations, as many people mistakenly believed that Hope was the originator of all the messages, and not just the recent one. On July the 3rd, they released their fourth number station, somewhat earlier than originally intended, in an attempt to muster up more interest. It quickly became apparent that it wasn't working. While there was still a core group of people as dedicated as ever to decrypting the messages, many people had lost interest. The turning point had been the Hope contest. Project Evil's experiment was unravelling, and it kept getting worse, so they started over. On the 15th of July 2006, all the members of Project Evil met face to face for the first time to discuss the future of Mein Fraulein and come up with a plan. First, they decided that they would release a large batch of messages within a short period of time, in the hope that this would reinvigorate interest if people felt something big might be happening. With 4 messages already released, the first of the 6 new number stations was launched on July the 19th, and the second was launched on July the 25th, with subsequent stations launched every 24 hours thereafter. After the project was reorganised, it was decided that the first 4 original messages didn't go in the right direction for the project. Up until this time, they were just picking messages to encrypt at random, usually without any group discussion beforehand. As a result, they ended up using logging names like dogballs and passwords like catsex, long-running jokes between the LA 2600 community. The reason they didn't release the first 4 messages during the original talk is because they wanted to continue using the same login page for the final 10th message crypto challenge that was to be played out at DEF CON, but with different login credentials. Therefore, they had no choice but to keep these first 4 messages under wraps until the crypto challenge was broken. Let me just clarify, the decrypted messages would lead to a login page where users could submit the deciphered message. The second part of the plan was to create a backstory for the number stations. This gave them in their own minds a framework to hang a new set of messages upon, and it allowed them to create a more cohesive set of Mindflowline messages to post on Craigslist. It also let them create encrypted messages that would be more meaningful to decrypt during their presentation. The backstory created was as follows. They decided that messages were being sent by the controlling agency to their agent in the field. Each message triggered a dead drop by the agent. The agent was becoming more freaked out by the amount of attention the messages were getting online, and was starting to hesitate at more missions. During the dead drop delivery after message 5, the agent was spotted by enemy counterintelligence. The controlling agency informed the agent that their cover might be blown in message 6, and at some point between message 6 and 7, the agent stopped responding to messages from control. Therefore, messages 7, 8 and 9 were all attempts by the parent agency to reconnect with the agent in the field. The 9th message succeeded, and the agent delivered the final package to the dead drop. The 10th message informed the field agent that their mission was over and that they were being pulled out. They had to keep their messages secret until DEF CON, and given how quickly the community had cracked the Hope cipher, it didn't seem that any traditional cipher would have a hope at resisting them if they were successful in rekindling interest. So they decided to continue using one-time pads for the 5th through 9th messages. This allowed them to decrypt those messages for the audience during the talk at DEF CON on the morning of August 5, 2006. During the talk at DEF CON, Project Evil also shared with the audience some of their experiences about making VoIP number stations, the reactions of the online cryptographic community, and the mistakes made along the way. Even though they gave the answers to the 5th through 9th messages during the talk, there was a 10th VoIP number station that they didn't release until the end of the talk. This message didn't use a one-time pad and was cracked by a team of hackers at the DEF CON convention. Carlson also explained how he sampled each of the numbers 0 through 9 to make the automated voice. We called people on Craigslist who were advertising erotic services, he said. You know how when you call someone up and just say the same thing over and over again, like 333, eventually they'll repeat it back in order to get you to stop. That's how we did it. Carlson said that he passed out Make Your Own Mindflowline Station CDs at the presentation, which contained the sound samples and asterisk AGI code to run your own VoIP number station. He made a copy of the CD available for those who were unable to attend. In total, the telephone numbers received approximately 6,100 phone calls. It's estimated based on the number of comments seen online and call detail records that this number represents about a third of the people who actually called the numbers. After the prepaid VoIP minutes ran out, the calls would no longer route through Project Evil's asterisk box, so they had no record of the call. During the day the first 2 numbers were on Slashdot, they received 2,180 calls. In total, the first 4 messages received 58% of all calls. The entire project, including the website, cost exactly $202. The group numbers at the start of the messages originally identified the area code of the city where the next message would appear. Then on June 2, 2006, Will Wheaton made the following post on Slashdot, meaning the group had to change tactics. So in messages 3 through 6, they used the following group numbers which, when rearranged, became the octets of an IP address. Messages 7 through 10 had the following group numbers which, when arranged, became an IP address. Taking the first letter of each city, in the order the number stations were released, a message emerged. See if you can spot it. So that's the amazing story of Project Evil's number station experiment. If you have any recordings that I've not featured, for example messages 4 through 10, then I'd love to hear them.
1 5. Group 4 1 5 0 1 P 0 5 0 1 P 0 5 6 0 5 1 0 6 0 5 1 0 1 2 0 7 9 1 2 0 7 9 0 4 6 0 6 0 4 6 0 6 5 0 1 0 0 5 0 1 0 0 9 P 0 0 0 9 P 0 0 0 0 8 2 0 P 0